Hello, everyone. I am Nicole van der Hoeven. Welcome to the stream. Today, I'm going to talk about something interesting, and I brought a friend, so you don't just have to watch me for an hour.
Yeah, you get to
Hello,
watch me too.
Leah.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you. Great to be
Why
here.
don't you introduce yourself?
Sure
Who are
thing.
you?
So my name's Leah Ferguson. Oh gosh, I'm a lot of things. I am a Obsidian mod, which is I hang out on the Obsidian Discord and help people, find cool things to do with Obsidian or just tech and nerdy stuff in general. That is my 5 to 9. During my 9 to 5, I'm an experiential graphic designer, which is a way of saying I do graphic design in the built environment and help people navigate and work with information in a visual sense through really interesting design and graphics. I'm also a D&D nerd, a new one, but I am one. So yeah.
Well, I don't know that I would say that you're a new one. I mean, I think we did a talk together last year, and you said you were new then too. So
Well, I mean, comparatively new. I only started during the pandemic, so it still feels. It either feels like it's been for 20 years, or is like last week. There is no time. So yeah.
yeah, I totally get that. So what do you play? Is this D&D 5e?
Yeah, I have only really played with D&D 5e. I've played with kind of a couple other like gaming systems or text adventures, like group text adventures, things like that. But for dice-based games, it's mainly been 5e.
That's awesome. I would say I'm also a relatively new player and GM, a player longer than I've been a GM. I started during the pandemic. I played before. I have an older brother who used to play it all the time, and I didn't really get it at the time. I just thought it was a cool thing to be asked to do with my older brother and his friends. But during the pandemic, I started GMing, and I don't know, things got a little out of hand. I'm now in 5 regular campaigns
My
a
gosh.
week,
Yeah.
which is a little. It's like you're talking about your 5 to 9 and your 9 to 5, and I don't know. I'm a developer advocate full time. I do YouTube as I guess my 5 to 9, and on every day, pretty much, I also play a lot of games. I need to do something with it because it's like a part time job.
I mean, that's kind of awesome. Like, I wish I had a chance to be able to dive into it more. I do like one session a week, and then the occasional one shot too, which it's been fun. It's been a great way to learn and play and explore. But yeah, I love that.
Still waiting for that one shot that
I
I can
know.
join in and we
Well,
can use Obsidian to do everything.
that's the plan. I do have a module, like a little one shot game that I want to do, and I'm customizing it so that it is like a little more Obsidian, a little more fun for the community. Yeah.
So I guess let's jump right in and talk about your Obsidian setup because you shared some sneak peeks with me and on the Obsidian Discord, and it seems like yours is way more well thought out than mine.
Well, I don't know if it's well thought out, but I'm more than happy to share. So for me, I guess one thing is I started Obsidian and D&D at the same time. And so it was kind of a great opportunity as I was using Obsidian for grad school and for note taking and diving into all the different ways you can have fun with it, and more importantly, connect information with it. I realized, oh, this might actually be really handy for D&D. And my very first campaign was Curse of Strahd, which has about 72,000 different NPCs and locations and things to get used to. So there were all these atomic bite-sized bits of information that really lended itself. And so I can kind of share my approach to it then. Well, actually, I think that's been shown. I'd love to show what it is now um,
Yeah.
with my new
Also, I
campaign.
wanted to ask, do you use Obsidian as a VTT as well? Because I know some people do that, or do you use it mainly for the notes?
I'm entirely notes. So
Me too.
I've been playing on Roll20. And so I'll have Roll20 going on one screen in my character sheet. And like that's where I'll actually do, interactions, check my spell list. But then I've got Obsidian going. And actually, how about I share my screen now for that? Um,
Sure.
yeah,
Can
and then
add it
that
here.
way, yeah. So for me, I've got kind of two modes that I approach Obsidian with when it comes to D&D. And I'm using workspaces here.
Hey, I don't
And
know if this will mess anything up, but would you mind increasing the size a bit?
sure, let's go for adventure on the fly.
Yeah.
All right, how's that doing?
I think that's better just for people who might not be on a big screen.
Perfect. All right, so let's see how this goes. So I've got I use Workspaces and Workspaces Plus as a way of being able to kind of preset zones in my Obsidian, because I'll have for one shots, I just want to have like my basic information up and be able to have my character, individual character up, but it may not be the same character every time because it's a one shot. But then for something where it's a standard campaign, like I just started Horde of the Dragon Queen last week, um, it's the kind of thing where I'm going to have, my session information, what I need in game, and then my prep area. And I'll kind of talk about what the differences are between the two. But let's show
Hey, I'm
my.
sorry to already have a question.
Please do.
And by the way, if anybody has a question for either of us, please also put it in the comments. But my question is about Workspaces Plus.
Hmm.
What is that? And should I be using it?
So I was going to say I've been using it, although I think the feature that I've been using has been updated for. I should say, if you're looking at this and you go, wait a second, how do you have tabs at the top? This is the new Obsidian 1.0 that was released this week. Um, and unfortunately, this part of the plugin hasn't been updated yet, but there's this little selector module down here that you can go on the fly between your different workspaces that
Ooh,
are,
nice.
yeah. So it's a friendly enhancement to workspaces, which is part of the core Obsidian. And one of the things I love about the plugins is there's like 600 of them, and there's always one that just creates a little quality of life. You could do this with just core if you don't want to install Workplaces Plus. It's just a few more extra clicks. So
We've got Josh here as well, who has a comment about that. He said the only problem with Workspaces is it resets your second windows. I've reverted to using starred notes instead.
I see. You're a DM, Josh. I know this. I don't do the second windows. I only usually keep my core workspace up as a player. But I'm going to be asking you questions when I finally do DM that one shot. So,
Yeah, I actually use Workspaces as a DM. I haven't had that issue,
hmm,
so I'm not sure if he's referring to something in particular.
yeah. Well, I'm gonna have to look into that too.
Yes.
So,
So
um,
sorry. Keep
that's
going.
cool. So, this is essentially my in-session reference. And what this comprises of, I have three major kind of panes that I work with. One is the sidebar, which is all it is a note that I've pinned over to the sidebar. And it's got kind of my heads up display. It tells me, hey, this is your Horde of the Dragon Queen campaign, just in case I go full Nicole and have 5 on the go. It gives me kind of using a call out, Obsidian call out from the core feature, um, a essentially quick jump into campaign reference, backstory, things that I might have to look at quickly, such as like, hey, there's an NPC. I want to get a little more information on them, then I can just jump quickly into that window, and it's all on hand for me during the session. I've got a list of sessions, overviews, and then this, because I'm still kind of a newer player, I like to have, the conditions. If I'm paralyzed, if I'm petrified, I haven't been petrified yet. So now I'm petrified, I'll be petrified. But essentially, I've got them here and available as kind of a quick reference. Previously, I had been playing with a Kanban board with these as notes during the campaign, but this has been a big shift, is just to have essentially my own custom file, or my own custom file explorer. I still have access to all my files. I still can do search on the fly if I need to. But then with the new tab views, essentially, I always keep one open that has my character reference, and then one where it's the session notes. It opens into just like the general session notes, but then I just go into the latest session. And this is massive, but what it allows me to do is, well, let's look at campaign 2 or session 2, which I'm doing tomorrow. This is all a session note by deployed by template. And so at the start of the session for tomorrow, I would have created this. I did create this last Sunday. And what it did is it says, okay, here's the actual session date. Here's the in-day, in-campaign day. We're still in the first day. We haven't left the tavern yet. It's fine. Here's the PCs that are a part of this. And this will be with data view. And then you'll notice that the rest are blank. I do know which location I'm in because we haven't left the tavern yet. But it gives me kind of that prompt to be able to go through and edit for afterwards, and I'll show that for review. I end every session by making notes for the next session. And part of that is like just having a commented out section that just says, okay, like starting notes. And so at the end of last session, I said, there was this big friendly dragonborn who seemed really nice, but seemed to react weird when I mentioned the cult of the dragon. What's up with that? So I'm now worried I may have actually tipped off the big bad evil guy in our campaign. But we'll find out tomorrow. And then place for notes. And how that looks for like during the session itself or after the session. So my notes are very sparse. They're just bullet journal, nothing fancy. And it's literally me going, okay, it's the character introductions. I spent a little more time on this because these are the characters that I'm going to be playing with for a long time until the character deaths. And then just the introduction of new characters, a little bit more about them. We did combat, but I don't really write. I only write the significant parts of combat. Like if it is a character that I want to remember, oh, they have this spell, they have this kind of information. And it's more like I'm just taking very quick point notes to go, okay, this is interesting. I've learned something here, and it might wind up being significant. I am playing a campaign where all characters have a lot of secrets from each other. And one of the things is we're going to be finding out information as we go through and trying to it's not player versus player, but it is trying to figure out what's happening with each of the characters. And so you'll notice that, like, for instance, my sheet for what I'm showing here for the stream is going to be rather empty because I know at least 2 people in my campaign who are probably going to watch this video, and no spoilers. Anyway, so essentially I have that during the campaign. I go in afterwards and I fill this out, which I'll talk about for like my review workspace. But then what I've started to do, I'm going to just close this just because the screen is big. What I've started to do is start using, links to other notes as creating cheat sheets for myself. For instance, I'm playing a cleric in this campaign who has access to new spells that I don't necessarily remember. Or I'm playing a trickery cleric and I always forget what like the new actions are, things like that. So I created, let me show that, essentially a little data view where it goes through and it pulls out any information from traits. And it's looking specifically for this bit of key value pairing. So I just say, hey, it's the PC is my Lenore campaign reference. And then the action, it's pulling the action. And I just type out what I need to know about it so that I'll remember in session. And what this does is this gives me a really nice summary. And of course, I'm showing one where I've hidden everything because secrets. Let me look up. Yeah, Ruby Tea Leaf has a few more that's kind of interesting. Ta-da.
Wow, this is a lot of work.
Actually, the thing is, it's not, because you create one feat once, and now it's usable for
Yeah.
like many things. So, like, I tend to play. I'm new. I've tend to manage to play elves, half elves. I played an Asimar, and they all have dark vision, right? And so you do it once, and then you just, as you're setting up your character, you link it, and it automatically does it because it's all templated. I'm not a programmer, but I'm sure that you can actually have this, pulled from the SRD or from information that you legally own, or campaign or books that you legally own, as a way to automate. I just do, I just focus on, as part of learning. Okay, here's this new spell. Or here's this new feat. I want to learn it. I want to understand and write it in my own words, and done. So,
Some comments here. SLR, who we did that last Obsidian and TTRPG talk with, says, I
mhm.
use workspaces plus have alternate themes for
Ooh,
specific situations, like my DMing screen has my WOTC colors scheme applied, whereas my usual workspace has SLRVB gray instead. Yeah,
nice.
that's really cool. And I think Luke also said that Workspaces Plus also has file overrides and autosave. I need that autosave.
Yeah,
Um, and Josh was saying that JSON CSV importer can make all these notes for you. I don't know. I know that I've tried it. I'm maybe a little bit old fashioned that way. I like to make the notes myself.
yeah,
I think like taking the notes helps me learn and helps me like make sense of my notes that way. So if I had just everything there, it's like, okay, well, all right, I don't really have to read anything.
yeah. Well, I was going to say, let me pull up my template. One of the things I kind of like is, like, I do like that moment of being able to go through and go, all right, no, this helped me learn. Because if I automate everything, then I have to look up everything in campaign. And my goal is to, at least have learn as much as I can about the different spells, the different feats. Um, anyway, moral of the story is, I'm able to kind of automate as much of this as possible, but
That's cool.
still be able to go through. And what this is from a data view standpoint is, a lot of it gets hidden. A lot of this is just inline data view, because tables and Markdown are the worst things ever. And I think that's something we can all agree on. So
Do you use the advanced tables
I
plugin?
do, and it's still
It's like
terrible.
essential.
It
Yeah.
is essential, but they're still terrible, and it's like, it's just the bane of, the bane of what we have to do, but it works really well in the end. Um, Anywho, so this has been kind of the fun thing, and I have it set up for spells as well, just as a way that, while I'm in session, I don't want to have to be like, okay, I'll look at Roll20. Oh, I've got minor illusion. Okay, or like being able to, I don't know. I just like to be able to have my notes quickly on hand the way I like them, because Obsidian, right? So
Yeah.
we're
So
opinionated.
what you were sharing with us earlier was like a spell template, and every time you create a spell,
I
you just
apply the
use
template.
that.
Yeah,
So you don't forget to like put down the casting time or something like that.
exactly. Yeah. And so my other one then that I'll show, and then we'll take a step out of Obsidian afterwards for this, is my review workspace. And at the end of the session, like, I'll go through and I'll have, all right, I'll here's my session note. Okay, it's real big, real big. Um, and I'll just kind of pull up the session as I've finished. And so I'll have one where, okay, I'll just start going through, and I always create a new character. Like, I might kind of go through and be like, Nicole Elf, you're going to be an elf. And then I'll kind of
Sure.
go through and kind of create that as, like, during the session, so that way I can always, kind of go through. All right, then, and you're able to kind of pull it up quickly. at a go. Essentially, like what I love about Obsidian links is there are some pretty complex names in D&D, and you can just search the first few letters and be able to pull it and just keep going. So that's one of the reasons why I link characters as much as I do. But I go through and I go, all right, so let's see, we met, okay, here's a new character we met, Big Boggins. And then I'll go through and I'll just update, okay, Big Boggins, we'll have that information. What this allows me to do then, I'm going to close that. What this then is, it gives me Big Boggins' character page. And again, this is all templated. And it gives me kind of a, like doing a little bit of work at the beginning gives me a lot of benefit for the campaign itself. Again, using data view, it's helpful that I've got, okay, his character was active in the following sessions, or we talked about him in the following sessions. And where this becomes really helpful is when you're 40 sessions in and your DM goes, oh, here's a subtle thing back to a character you met in the first session. And you go, wait a second. Or, you met him early campaign. You go, oh, session 1. Yeah, here's where we met Big Boggins. Why is it blinking out? There we go. And then you're able to go quickly in campaign. And I've done this before to my DM, where they just drop like a last name. I'm like, hold on, wait a second. We heard about them in session 1, and I was able to actually call out, like, we found the grave of the person who was in the house, who had done a thing, who had written a letter, and it was just like, I don't think I was supposed to make that connection, but Obsidian kind of helped me do it. So it's what I kind of enjoy doing as part of the campaign now too. So, and
Yeah, I actually, I think when you're DMing, you don't get to take as many notes. So my DM notes are way more sparse than my player notes.
Yeah.
And I see this because my DM, Andy, uses Obsidian. And because I'm taking so many more notes than he is, sometimes I'm like, oh, I want to ask about this specific person. And he's like, who?
Yep.
I love those moments.
Yeah, it's the, yeah, exactly. And then I also have, again, like, who are my, like the PCs? Because I always will start my review of going, okay, well, what did I learn about Astrid or Leo, or like, and just kind of make just a couple of quick notes. And again, this is just keep them very simple as a reference, just so that I can pull up information during the game. And help kind of stay immersed, but also start to pick apart perhaps holes in their story, because secrets. So,
So what was that JD number that I saw in the YAML front matter?
That you'll notice that I've got a lot of numbers kind of across things. So for instance, JD number is the Johnny decimal number, which that should be filled out, but it isn't. But you'll notice that I've got up here at the top 60 games, 62 campaigns, 62.4, and then just kind of keep going down and down. It gives me a common organization structure. So for a campaign, I always know that if I type like essentially 62 and then 04, I'll bring up a PC. Or I'll bring up an NPC with 05. And it's just kind of like I'm able to kind of start mirroring some of these things at a glance. So for instance, if I want to just quickly go, all right, I want to look at things from, oh gosh, 2.5 Strahds. I can just type in the numbers. And because I use numbers a lot, both in my Obsidian Vault, but the work I do as a graphic designer, we often have project codes. So it'll be like 752 is this project. And you get really used to number patterning. And so this is kind of how I kind of do quick jump to things. So I know, for instance, this 6202 is always going to be a Curse of Strahd campaign, or this particular Curse of Strahd campaign. 6204 is always going to be something within the Horde of the Dragon Queen campaign. So,
Yeah, I
yeah.
want to echo something that Josh just said. How does your brain remember that? Because I look at this and I'm like, I would never remember all of those different folders. I have like a TTRPGs folder, then I
Mhm.
have a folder per campaign. That's it.
My brain is weird, I guess. Like, it's something that, like, when I'm kind of going through and looking at things, it just helps me to have, like, so taking a step back, total step back is like for Johnny Decimal, Johnny Decimal is essentially a knowledge management system that is the idea that you should never be more than about 3 folders deep. I ignore that.
Mm.
But what I
Okay.
do like about it is that you're able to have essentially the idea of like 10, 10, and 10. You start going down, okay, here's 10, you'd have 10 top level folders. So I use this to organize kind of the chunks of my life. I've got, notes about notes, kind of like essentially like it's resource information for my system.
Mhm.
And then I've got like things in my personal life. I've got things for learning. And I, again, anything that starts with in the 20s is under that category. So if like, this was academic, this is professional, this is like bite-sized notes that have, just it's chaos and beauty within it. Reference material so that I'm able to start breaking things down. And where this has value to me is this applies to other parts of my system beyond Obsidian. My files folders in my computer are chunked into 10 personal, 20 learning.
Oh, wow.
My
Okay.
notes in Google Drive, again, those are the top 10 folders.
What?
Calendars, I have calendar views that are based off of this as well. My mail, again, and the idea is you have kind of consistency so that I know anytime that in my personal system I type 35, it's my active employer. And it has anything to do with that. If I type anything .00, it's going to be an overview or an admin note. If I type anything .99, it's always going to be an archive. And so you start to kind of create little patterns in it. That's at least how I use it. So there's, it's one of those things where it's interesting as an Obsidian moderator. It's a fire hose of information, but it's really interesting to see how people organize their systems. And this is
Yeah.
way too intensive for a lot of people, but there might be something in here where it's just like, oh, I just like the idea of grouping my things. That's kind of nice. And so, I'll put this out there and someone will go, I hate the rest of it, but I'm stealing that part. And I kind of love
Yeah.
that. So, all
Yeah,
right.
that's the best
Yeah.
part about Obsidian, right? You
Yeah.
can do it however makes sense to you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. All right. So I think I do want to share one other thing that kind of has to do with this whole like outside of Obsidian. And I use this, I was going to say, if it's not obvious by the traffic lights, I'm a Mac user. So any PC users who are watching this, I'm sorry, I don't know the PC equivalent, but I use a launcher service called Bunch. And what Bunch is actually, let me even bring it up. It's just it's just a text code. So, would have been nice if I had this open, but this is where we
That's
are.
okay.
So,
I'm really excited to see this too because you told me about it, and I think I need it, but I'm lazy, and it's good that you're just going to show me.
exactly. Yep. So what this is it literally is just it's text encoding to be able to say, all right, when you launch this Bunch, and that's the name of the app, um, so this is like Sunday morning at 7:55. I've got coffee in hand, I'm bleary-eyed, and I'm ready to go. But I don't feel like, okay, now I have to close down everything else, and I want to be able to turn on that music or open this browser and to this window. I just click one button, I open my Bunch, and it launches everything for me. and even make sure that, hey, it's using my correct microphone. It's going to turn on my focus mode so that I'm not going to get a bunch of text messages or something to distract me. I'm just very, very focused on what it is. But where Bunch kind of is extra nice is, hey, you can say, okay, Firefox, open up this exact link for your browser. It happens to be my game link. I probably shouldn't be showing that. And then I've got my Obsidian workspace here as well, and it just launches right into the correct workspace. So I will show what that looks like. All right, so we'll go search bunches. And I'll do, again, 60. So this is the kind of nice thing, too, of like, I don't have to type in Horde of the Dragon Queen. I can type in essentially 62, and it brings up my campaigns. I need to, Strahd's done, so I should retire that one. Dragon Queen. And it's going to go through and it's going to launch the right Obsidian workspace. It's going to bring up my browser. I'm good. It hid this. I'm like, oh crap, did I tell it to close everything down, including the thing I'm streaming? I did not. Luckily. Like, oh, it's quiet. Why is it so quiet? But essentially, it brings everything up, and including, and this is kind of a fun part, this campaign has music involved in it. But my Curse of Strahd, I'd play my own music. So I'd have a playlist, and I'd link to that playlist. And so it would always open up my music player and be ready to go, put me in the mood for 8 a.m.
Wow.
So like it's a way to be able to automate things. And so like now, for instance, I am in my gaming mode. But I'm gonna put that back to do not disturb.
So what do you use for streaming music? Is it
So
Sirenscape?
my DM actually has something set up on Discord. So
Oh,
he's
okay.
got a bot on Discord and he controls a
Kenku?
playlist, and I think so. But yeah, it's one of those things of like, it failed last week, so it's like, all right, just find the music yourself. Here's the song. So it's, yeah, not without technical issues. But anyway, so basically 8 a.m. rolls around. I'm here. I'm ready to play one button. So
Wow.
yeah.
You are so organized. I'm
Well,
gonna download this Bunch app.
the way I look at automation in general, although I mean XKCD comment notwithstanding, is you put the effort in once and then you just save time in the past. So I took a little bit of time to like learn Bunch and learn the syntax and be able to figure out how to do it and go, all right, I want to stop and create these things. And so I did. And now, like, I've been using Bunch for a year, just quick launching things. And like yeah, you're like, okay, it saved you what, like 2 minutes? Well, yeah, if you roll out of bed late because the dog didn't want to go outside and you're logging on at 9 or at 7:59, it really helps to automate it. Like it makes it easier for you going forward if you do the work up front. Same way, like, you might be looking at this and going like, I don't need a template. I can just take notes. I'm like, yeah, but make it easier for yourself. When you open a new window, it applies the template and you're just there. Like, you take the pressure off for future you. So at least that's my approach.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
This is great. I've never seen anything like this other than you. The last time you showed it to me.
yeah. And I mean, I use this, just to be fair, I take the approach of like, I will often use and like learn new tools, or do deep dive into tools for the fun things. So for instance, I have like almost obsessive level spreadsheets for when I play video games. And okay, that is the nerdiest statement I've made yet. But but for instance, when you're going through and wanting to make sure you've got all the achievements or found the different armors in Assassin's Creed or that kind of thing, like, you can just kind of go through and tick it off and take care of it there. But like, okay, I'm not doing that enough justice because I wind up learning new ways to program or code things or automate things using that tool. Well, the thing is, I use spreadsheets all the time professionally, and I've actually developed skills and developed essentially better tools for my professional life because I play video games, because I nerded out on that spreadsheet. And the same thing goes for like Dungeons and Dragons. Is I've learned probably so much more about Obsidian just because I've nerded out over Dungeons and Dragons that I then apply to my personal and professional life. And so, like, it's kind of an opportunity to have fun and learn new things, but it benefits your whole life. So,
Yeah, that's why it doesn't work for me to have the folder structure
mhm,
like for you, because in that case I would be like, yes, I can have my role-playing game separate, but what if I take an improv course?
mhm,
That's improv. D&D and other RPGs are also improv practice,
mhm,
but I also do that personally, and I might also do that at work when I'm giving a presentation. So
mhm.
what do you do when there's something that fits into multiple folders?
So that is where links and essentially links come in. So, for instance, for me, and I can't say too much, but there are books that I read and articles that I read in reference that have made atomic notes of like, hey, I read this really cool thing about, well, okay, I was playing Assassin's Creed, and there was this really cool thing that I saw in ancient Greece that I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I'm going to go read some articles about that. That sparked an idea for the character I created. And so, like, I wind up when I'm actually kind of creating a new character, I might actually link to notes in Atomic or have references. And the thing is, the folders might give it general fuzzy structure. Like, for instance, my Atomic folder it's a big list of things. It is an everything bucket. Um, but with Obsidian and linking, it kind of doesn't matter if it's in one folder or like a big bucket or individual folders because they can link and go between them. Um, Something for me for improv might be even if I use those skills in D&D and professional and personal, it might be something that, hey, I'm learning about this. Or it might be something where it's just like, oh no, I actually want to break that out into atomic notes. And it doesn't have to be like, it doesn't actually have to be categorized. So,
Yeah, that makes sense. I do the links as well.
yeah.
So I have a question about how you track things that you need to do in game.
Okay. So in Curse of Strahd, I was going to say, I'm testing out a new system for this one. In that I am trying to do essentially carry over into my starting notes. But in Curse of Strahd, in my admin, I would have active questions, things that, never actually got answered because this campaign's done. Previous questions, essentially, like I'd keep track of them in a single note. Same way where I'd have quests. You can go away. Go away. You can have quests like things that you want to keep high level. A character's given this to you. Are they active? Are they done? And these kind of things again can be viewed on your main note, which I took out because I archived this game. So never mind. But essentially, like you could go through and uh, just very quickly have it on your main notes so that you have that one stop at a glance and you can just see, okay, here's all of my questions. Okay, I actually would rather just see my active questions. And so putting in that hashtag, it says, hey, I want to look only at headers. And so I'll select, okay, only my active. And so it's kind of a way of like when you're breaking up a note, you could just have a huge line of questions. Cool. All right. That's great. That works. But if you start to put in little bits of structure, you can find ways to be able to link it, essentially in other notes. One thing that I am doing new in this campaign is you're probably a good one because I feel like we're going to learn about you. Is I am I used to just keep a note where I'd go exactly to the point, a part in the note of the session note of like, oh, this is where we learned this. And I found it was really helpful for like few very detailed things, but on the whole, I just need to know it was in session one and I'd kind of remember whereabouts in the session it happened. So when I'm kind of going through and creating information about this, these are called, what are these? These are not block quotes.
Footnotes?
Footnotes. And so I'm just repeating the same footnote. And so at the very bottom here, everything is saying, hey, everything in here goes back to session one. This is where I learned this. You can just very kind of quickly go, hey, this was oh, that doesn't work. This was also reinforced in session two. And so now, like, this link brings you to session two. And you can pull it up quickly. So that way it's a little less fussy. You don't have to worry about information management quite as much. You just kind of use that that one general footnote for when it matters in the campaign, if that information matters. And that's kind of the fun of, starting a new campaign. You're thrown into a world. You have like a shotgun of information thrown at you, and you don't know what actually is the noise and the signal. So right now, it's all just getting linked.
So do you also, because this is what you do already during the game as well, during and after, right?
Mm-hmm.
But before you start a game, you mentioned that you've just started a new campaign. How do you use Obsidian at all for like the character creation process, other than those templates that you made for the spells and actions?
Very much so. So I'm going to go to Lenore because this is the most recent character I've kind of created. And I will go through and I'll have like I'll have a basic, all right, here are the mechanical things that matter. And personalization, this is something that I'll fill out as I'm kind of going. But in terms of, oh, that's not right.
I love how you organize everything using callouts.
They're kind of a nice way to be able to just like group,
Yeah.
visually group information. So, and there's a lot of like really nice different styles and versions as well that I've seen other players use or other people on the server use. Okay, here we go. I'll have, so for instance, for this character, I spent, oh gosh, I was working on this character for like 3 months because we had a campaign end and we just had a long start. So it's a complex character of which you'll see almost nothing here. I'm very sorry, but but you'll start with like, okay, this is literally the document that I'm gonna send to my DM as part of prep. And so they may not want to read all of the like nuance and the things that I've got. They can if they want, but basically TLDR, here's the information you need to know. Then I give them kind of just a general, like, this one has an interesting timeline and backstory relationships. And I like essentially what are information that my DM specifically wanted to know for this campaign. He wanted to know, like, who did they know? Who in their past can he necessarily play with in this campaign? And so I'll go through and I'll start to kind of group and create this information. I mentioned that actually both in this and then our event last year, that quite often what I'm reading will influence the character. Like I'd been reading about the truth default theory, and that wound up being a big way to shape my character in my last campaign. This one, like I was reading some interesting things about I can't say in early 1900s, and that wound up being a really kind of cool thing that I wound up linking. So I would actually, as I'm kind of going through, I might just start linking to those individual atomic notes as part of brainstorming. But I also use this app called Eagle. And what I do is I just kind of create an inspiration gallery as I go. And the, again, beautiful thing about Obsidian is this is just using essentially a deep link right into Eagle so that I'm able to go right to the smart folder that is about at that point it was an untitled character, but it's now Lenore. And so as I'm going through, I'm able to kind of pull in, okay, here's all my reference images of like, as I'm trying to shape the character. It's a bit of a play with the visual. I find Obsidian doesn't handle, image management quite as well, but it pairs beautifully with an app like Eagle.
Yeah, so we have a comment about that. Can you go more into Eagle? What exactly is it?
Sure. So Eagle is a image reference manager. It will actually do a number of different file types. You can organize music or videos or that. And I started using this professionally as a graphic designer as a way of storing inspiration folder. Like essentially, I literally have a folder called inspiration, which is often, if I'm like, oh, that's a really cool like directory sign or directional, or I love this graphic or art style, you can kind of go through and start to tag things. Where it becomes interesting is, all right, so this image, it allows you to go through and tag. And you're able to kind of go through and say, all right, this is going to be essentially like, this is an interest or an idea for this particular character. You can have different tags for things like start to say, okay, this image works for tieflings. This image works for, like, you can essentially associate data,
Yeah.
just like you can in like a Zotero or a DevonThink or anything that has like a tagging system, but then you can do smart folders. And so where that becomes really helpful is if you do, and I haven't gone in depth on this one, I've done a little bit more in depth with my professional one, but you can kind of go through and start going, all right, so this one is, she's clearly going to be an Azamar. So we're going to tag her as an Azamar. And so that you can kind of go through and, all right, I'm going to create a new smart folder. I want to see all of my Azamars.
It occurs to me that you're basically creating a fantasy Facebook.
Yep, basically. So, and so now
So
any
have
image
you
that I got tagged
considered
as, yeah.
Sorry.
Now, no, it's fine. Cause like now basically as I start going through and tagging an image, and this might be something that I wind up doing when I'm watching a movie or like, it can be a lot more robust than I've actually done here for this. But it's a really nice way of being able to handle things. But then what's also really nice is I can then take this folder and I can go, okay, I want to copy a link to this folder. So that now I'm going to go into the Obsidian and, well, she's a human, but that's fine. I'm going to go, okay, as Mars. Here's a link. And now goes right into that folder. So in theory, and I may have just given myself more work, is I could literally go through and just do all the different races or the different like classes or like into that kind of thing. I probably won't, to be honest, and then link it to like their types in my Obsidian notes. But I probably won't because that sounds like a lot of work. So yeah.
So one thing that I've toyed with doing, I've done
Mm-hmm.
it on a smaller scale, but I have a lot of photos that I still haven't moved over to it. But I have looked at using Gallery and
Mm-hmm.
Excalidraw to add the tagging functionality and then just data view it out so that
Mm-hmm.
you can do it entirely in Obsidian. Is there anything that Eagle can do that you couldn't do with that setup, you think?
Well, I find what I like about Eagle again is it gives you like it gives me a different place where I can work. And I'm talking about this as
Mm.
much from like a graphic designer standpoint, is it gives me a different headspace or a context. So when I'm looking specifically for images, I just find it's a cleaner way that I understand to be able to understand like images and things. You could probably do this entirely with data view. You could probably do this entirely in Obsidian. I personally like to keep my Obsidian sync folder pretty light. It's almost entirely just text files, the occasional PDF, and then my token art for the PCs, which is I actually keep a gallery of all of my previous PCs. Let me open up Obsidian, and I can show one last. Anytime now. Essentially, I've got, at a glance, here are all of the PCs that I've been playing so far. And it's kind of like, I don't know why I'm keeping these, because I will possibly never play my Julia Child knockoff, half-elf again. But just in case I do, she's there. And it's kind of a nice memory to have of like, I played a kitchen one, and naturally I had to play Julia Child. So, yeah. But it's just
How
kind
is
of like,
this so nicely formatted?
so this is, this will come as a massive surprise. It's data view. Come on. There we go. And all it is saying, hey, embed the token field as a graphic, and it's done in a way where, using minimal, I'm able to say, hey, I want to view this data view table as, actually, let's just take this out. If you just view this as just a table, and this is very helpful too. You've got them at a glance. So saying, hey, I've got, my token, I've got, all of the information. It's all kind of here. But what minimal does is, using, like, you invoke certain CSS that's been written in this, or you can pull it and put it into your own system. Is it's saying, hey, I want to view these as cards. And so it's just a way to be able to very cleanly show, hey, you've got, cards and images and this kind of thing. And I do this for, this is not T&D, but this is just general nerdery. So we're going to go there. Louise.
Would you also mind sharing that query I guess, on the Obsidian Discord?
Sure thing. So for instance, I've got, I keep track of movies that I watch. These two were actually, I want to rewatch them, but essentially it's on my daily note, and I just have a little field that says log film. And so I sit down and watch a movie, and I go in my Obsidian log film, what was it, : and then I type in, I type in the name of the movie, and then I apply a template. It pulls data from IMDb and automatically makes a note, because nerds, right? That I can also link to on the thing. But if we want to go to, say, the Gosford Park note, all of this information gets pulled automatically from essentially a template. Actually, let's name a movie. Doing things live is always fun.
Blade Runner.
Blade Runner. All right. So I'm going to go through and I will name this. Okay. I will do film. I'm going to do templater. I'm going to type in Blade Runner. And which version of Blade Runner would you like to do? The 2017 or the classic?
Oh, man.
I know.
I don't like any of them, so let's go with the classic one.
Done and done. Have I watched this? Sure have. Love this movie. And
did you really?
I got to see it on the big screen at Toronto International Film Fest. So yes. So yeah, I actually do.
But have you read the book?
Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? You know this nerd has. So yeah.
I mean, because I feel like if you've read the book, it's just so. Anyway, we're digressing, but yeah,
they're entirely different, and they're entirely different. But like, you can say the same thing about The Wizard of Oz. Like, honestly, the book is fantastic, and she's got silver shoes. But when MGM did the movie in 1939, and it's just like, well, we can't have silver shoes because we got Technicolor ruby red slippers, right? And they
but value, also red.
But also red, You got to have your red
Yeah,
sparkly
you've got to
shoes.
forgive that. Red is an awesome color.
Yeah.
Oh,
Anyway,
we have
we are
another
totally,
question.
yeah, we've nerded it
Sorry.
all out. So let's go back to this. So,
How do you set up those CSS classes? Is that something you have had to build from scratch? Are there templates?
okay, so this is where I cheat and I blatantly use a really cool theme. I personally have been using minimal. God, that's it. Um, I've been using a theme called minimal, and it has these pre-built in as block types. So, for instance, it's already got these like this kind of pre-built in. Often I'll go through and tweak it with some CSS after the fact, or like I like my vault to look my way. But there's a lot of information here that kind of come pre-built into a lot of like a good number of the themes. So, for instance, you can have the table fill 100% just by adding this little bit of CSS class. You could also write your own and then evoke it on the note using that CSS class, if that's your thing. So,
Cool.
what else?
I was wondering if you would if you'd considered using Obsidian Dice Roller for character creation, because I love to do that.
Yeah, I do for one shots. I was, I think, the only player who didn't for my campaign, but that's because I had a really interesting build that I wanted to make, and so I didn't want to leave it to chance. But I have used it for just kind of generating on the fly for one shots. Yeah. I mean, Dice Roller is also,
That's
I
so
mean,
cool.
there are so many helpful tools that Jeremy has built, and this is one of them. So, Javelin for is one of the big plugin guys for us nerds. So, let's see.
While we're here, I wanna share something as well. This is because I do a lot of different systems. I'm
Mm-hmm.
currently working on Pirate Borg because I'm running a short adventure for one of my groups next week, and so I love using it for character creation. So this is a
Cool.
brute class
Mm-hmm.
in Pirate Borg, for example, and this is a system that's based. It's OSR sort of at its core, and it's based off of Borg, which is an awesome system. But this is not
Mm-hmm.
quite as bleak. But anyway, for those things where you have to roll like 3d6 and then add a certain number, or like you have to roll for your starting weapon or whatever. It's so cool to just switch to preview, and it's like this is your entire backstory.
That is
You know,
awesome.
I
Yep.
I love being able to do that.
Yeah.
And what I'm working on, I can't get it to work the way that I want it, because did you know that Dice Roller, you can add like mod, and then it shows the result not as a like maybe I should just show you. If I create a new brute here,
Mm-hmm.
this doesn't work exactly, but see how everything just turned into the actual result?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know why it doesn't all work, but some of them do. So like these were all random stuff, and then now they don't change every time. You just get that result, and now it's like you have a new brute. Is that not
That is
awesome?
that is so cool and something I'm totally borrowing for when I DM. So 1,000%
Oh yeah,
yes.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like I have so much stuff here. Like for example, for adventures now, I have like for example, these oracles are from Ironsworn, the Ironsworn RPG. I think these intrusions were from Numenera.
Oh, cool.
And then some of them are from Sly Flourish, so more D&D stuff. And then now I just switched to preview, and it's like, where are we starting? In the city? Okay, this is the prompt for it, and there's just you can just click on it, and there's just so much.
That
So I
is,
love
yeah,
doing that for
yeah.
DMing. So I think yeah, this is a Maze Rats one, this is an Ironsworn one, and it can be even crits like what does it mean when someone crits? Well, then you can say, like, maybe if someone did an acrobatics check and was a crit, then you actually land really solidly instead of falling prone or something, aside from just making the leap.
You do
But
the
I do
amazing
this
superhero
for
land. Yeah.
characters as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because
That's so
when
cool.
I'm trying to think of backstories, I mean this is geared for DMs, but I also use it as a player.
Mm-hmm.
So this is supposed to help me create a quick NPC, but sometimes it's fodder for creating a player as well.
Yeah.
So there are backgrounds here, even flaws. I don't use everything, but there's just so much.
It's a
This is a
great way
lot of
to at
Merkborgy
least start the
stuff.
thinking. Yeah. Love that.
Yeah.
I have a new thing I need to do. So love this.
Okay. Well, we've run out of time. I mean, I wish this whole thing was because I wanted an excuse to talk to you, but it's been awesome. I think we could have gone on for another hour or something.
Absolutely, probably could have. So yeah. No,
Yeah.
this was great.
But before we go, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you could only use 3 community plugins specifically for playing D&D, what would they be? You can't use anything else. And you
Oh,
can't use any core plugins either, just community plugins. What would you install?
all right. So Templator and Data View are kind of obvious for my system. Oh man. I only get one more to pick after that. Really?
Yes.
Oh gosh.
I feel
I
like
would
it's a bit boring because Templator and DataView are also in
They always
mine.
seem to be the
You
yeah,
kind of
so
need it.
yeah, I really have been enjoying supercharged links. And I've got that going in my current campaign because I can see at a glance if it's an NPC, if they're alive, if they're an ally, because it'll just like essentially
Hmm.
I put emoji on the character sheet using the whole
Can you
key
show that
value.
quickly?
Sure.
Because
So
I haven't gotten on this train yet. I've heard it mentioned to me, but I'm like, okay, so I have emojis on links. I don't quite get it.
so for instance, our dear friend Big Boggins. I just went through and said, all right, his campaign status, I'm using an anatomical heart. He's alive. This
Oh,
meant a little bit
okay.
more. Yeah, this meant a little bit more in Curse of Strahd when I swear every session somebody would die. And then relationship status. Well, he's entirely neutral on Lenore. So, it's not showing up. Hold on.
What do
I
you
don't have
know?
Sigh. So what that would wind up
So
looking like, yeah, is at the
So
very
would
top.
you, is it the status that
Yeah,
you would be pulling in?
at the
Okay.
top it would so Big Boggins, and it will have the heart and the circle right after his name. So I can see at a glance
Mm.
he's how he is. Now, for instance, we'll go back to Blade Runner for a second because that one works. It doesn't work. This is the joys of doing it live. Blade
Yeah.
Runner as a film should actually have like a little movie icon here too, so that I can see as a glance as I'm going through. It will have that information attached to it. But of course, we're doing it live. Blade Runner.
The day
Oh,
after a new
well,
version.
I was going to say the day after a new version, it's fine. So yeah, okay, my bad. It works. Usually, it would be my third pick.
Yeah.
So
Okay. I have to say, well, I'd say data view and templator, but then I'd say dice roller just
mhm.
because I don't know, I think it would be really terrifying to improv with nothing, like to have
Yeah,
0 and just be like, okay, go. That would be terrifying. I need prompts. I need something to go on. And
yeah.
once you have like a random phrase, it's like, I don't know what the adventure is. And then, someone says alchemical lab. I'm like, okay, all right, I can
Can
work
work with
with
that.
that,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, even you
But
start at a
anyway,
tavern. Where's that tavern? What's the economy like around there? There's just so many fun things.
yeah.
So yeah, yeah.
And then you get like underground. It's like, oh, you're starting in an
Yes,
underground tavern. How did you get there? How are you breathing? There's so much to go
yeah,
on.
yeah. Exactly. So
Well, thank you for coming on. I'm super glad that I was able to convince you to come on. If
thank you for
people want
convincing
to
me.
reach out to you or talk to
Yeah.
you, how would they go about doing that? What's the best way to reach out?
Probably the best way is I seem to hang out on the Obsidian Discord when I'm on. You know, feel free to message me, or I hang out in the tabletops channel specifically. And then I am on Twitter, and that is Leah the Designer, all one word. So yeah, feel free to tweet at me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you. And thank you to everybody who stayed and watched. It was awesome chatting with you all. And everybody have a great weekend. Bye.
Bye.